Okay, so we've reached the last topic in this lesson where we're going to look at how we're going to determine the method we're going to use to migrate our databases. Once we have found and fixed our compatibility issues, the next step is to select a migration tool or method and actually perform the migration. There are different methods available for various scenarios, and the selection largely depends on your requirements around downtime, the size of the database, and your network speed and network quality. Now on the screen here we've got a comparison matrix looking at the various migration methods which you can then use to help you choose the method you wish to use. So on the left hand side in terms of migration method we've got SQL Server Management Studio using the deployed database to Azure database option. This is the wizard-based GUI and it will export on-premises databases using the backpack file to Azure SQL database. Downtime is needed with this and it's ideal for small to medium sized databases. The SQL package.exe is a command line utility that will export our on-premises database to Azure, again using the backpack export and import. Downtime is needed, it's ideal for small to medium-sized databases. Then there's a manual migration using backpack and BCP, and where we can use the SQL package.exe to export the DACPack, just the schema, and then use BCP or BCP out the data into a folder and then import the DACPack followed by a parallel BCP to import the data. Again, downtime is needed, but this can be useful for large to very large databases. The Azure Migration Wizard, this is the free Codeplex option with a wizard-based GUI, scripts out the schema into a T-SQL file, and then uses BCP to import the data. Again, there's downtime needed, and it's ideal for larger databases. The DMA, the Data Migration Assistant, it's a Windows wizard-based GUI. It uses T-SQL to script migrate the schema and uses BCP to migrate the data. But it does give you some control over the objects and tables that are being migrated. You can then detect and list out any compatibility issues too. There is downtime, it's suitable for very large databases. Now we can utilize transactional replication. We can use an Azure SQL database as a subscriber to our on-premises database, which is going to be the publisher. There's some complexity involved in this, there can be some costs, there can be some resources, extra resources needed. But in terms of downtime, it's very short, so it lets you keep it to a minimum. Okay, and it supports SQL Server 2012 and above as the publisher and Azure SQL databases as a subscriber. So if minimizing your downtime is important, that's possibly the option for you. And again, it's suitable for large to very large databases. So in this next demo, we're going to migrate an on-premises SQL Server database to Azure SQL database using SQL Server Management Studio. Once we've ensured we've got all our compatibility issues sorted, we are then in a position where we can do our migration. And we can use any tool we like from the list we've just gone through. In this case, we're going to use SQL Server Management Studio. So I've already opened SQL Server Management Studio and connected to my on-premises instance. And in this case, I'm going to migrate my on-premises Toy Store Test database to Azure. Okay. When I'm connected in Management Studio, I'm going to right-click the database I want to migrate. So I'm going to right-click Toy Store Test, and I'm going to go down to Tasks, and then I'm going to choose Deployed Database to Microsoft Azure SQL Database. This will start up the Deployed Database wizard, and then the first screen tells us what we're going to do, deploy a database to Microsoft Azure SQL Database. I'm going to click on Next. In the Connect to Server dialog pane, I'm going to provide my Azure SQL Database. So I'm going to hit Connect here. I'm going to hit my drop-down list, and I'm going to choose my Toy Store SQL Database, and I'm going to provide my password. I'm going to hit Connect. Then we've got our deployment setting. So under the new database, I'm going to keep it called Toy Store Test in this case. Okay, and then I get to choose the Azure edition. So I get to choose Standard, Premium, Data Warehouse. In this case, I'm just going to choose Basic. Okay, database size, I'm going to leave as 2 gig or whatever it needs to be. And then I'm going to click on Next. I thought I'd click Next. So it's still running. Okay, hopefully in just a second we'll get to verify our settings. There we go. So it tells us what we're doing. We've got our source database on premises called Toy Store Test. The target is our Toy Store SQL in Azure. We've connected a SQL admin. What we're going to call it, the service plan it's going to be on. So it's going to be on Basic Edition. Click Finish and the migration will start. Now, SQL Server Management Studio will check for compatibility issues, and the migration process is likely to terminate because of compatibility issues. If that happens, you can click on the error besides the exporting database option to view the details, and you can read through and see why your error failed. Okay, so we let this run, extracting the schema, resolving references, and it fails exporting the database. So if I click on the error here, one or more unsupported elements were found in the schema. Cross database queries to MSDB using SP SendMail. These are not supported in Azure, so you can go through and view these errors. You can read them all. Now we have a script here that will fix these compatibility errors, which I'm just going to open up. I'm going to open a file. I'm going to go to my C drive, if I can find it. There he is. Go into the code folder, lesson 2, fix compatibility issues. I'm going to run this in ToyStores test, and it's just altering the backup database statement, email, where she's scripting out all the references to MSDB. It'll fix all those issues, and now I should be able to migrate my database again. So I'll return to my tasks. Deploy database to Microsoft Azure SQL database. Now I've fixed the errors. Click on next. Same errors as before. Connect to my server. ToyStores SQL server with the appropriate password. Click on connect. Click on next. It'll run through and give us a summary. Click on finish. It's going to extract the schema from the database, and this time it should succeed. And you can see there, tables are being migrated. With all the issues fixed, our database successfully migrates to Azure.